Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced by a British biased bloke with a massive Swede full of very questionable wheel knowledge. Broadcast live on YouTube and after the fact on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have a good old natter about each and every Grand Prix of the season. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. Well, hello, my name's Tommo and I am joined by Minton. Let's talk about Baku, shall we? Let's get into the meat and bones of what was a mixed bag, okay? Well done, Baku. You played pretty well, okay? Saturday was absolute chaos. 6 red flags, the most of any qualifying session ever. And the race was almost 2023 vibes, wasn't it? It did have something of the 2023 assortment about it. Look at Minton. Look at how premium he looks right now. Luxury sausage dog, aren't you, mate? Look at him. What an absolute boy. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the rest, then I do apologise. You cannot see this glorious hound that will accompany us. I mean, to be fair, he's going to go to bed because he's knackered. So he will be here for maybe another minute, and then we'll let him go and have a kip while we discuss the goings on this weekend in Baku. Is the mic quiet? Is the mic sounding a bit quiet? I'm just going to turn the mic up a little bit. It might be a little bit. That should be better. That should be better, everyone. Apologies for that. Audio should be a little more appropriate now. So let's talk about it. But first of all, say goodbye to this one. He's off. You're going to go kip now? Go on then, mate. Off your pot. Go on. Bye. Ciao, adios. He's out of it. And we're going to talk Baku. Starting off, everyone, can you please, on YouTube Live, Jack, Fanatic, Muted, Sense, Rayner, Patrick, Suyan, Sonny, Matthew, and the rest of you, can you please give me a race rating out of 10? Can you please give me a race rating out of 10? Okay? Let me know what you think. What do you think? What do you consider this weekend in totality? Specifically the race, not specifically the race, primarily the race, because that is the most important part of the weekend. Of course, as much as Saturday was crazy, the race itself, there's some interesting, there's a bit of a variety going on here. Right, race rating out of 10. I'm gonna put maybe 8 or above as the high number, a 7, a 6, a 5 or below, because it was one of them where there was a lot of intrigue, of course, given the names who were associated with positions. When you've got Carlos Sainz, Liam Lawson up there, the Papayans nowhere near the front. As we saw on Saturday, things did not go well for either Lando or Oscar for quite different reasons in the end. It does make it a bit more intriguing. Obviously, Max was able to run away with it. Perhaps if, a McLaren was starting alongside him, that might have made the battle for the win. Spoiler alert. A bit more interesting, but all in all, it is refreshing to see names that we don't typically see at the front, and especially names who, have definitely deserved and had a tough run of it. Okay, obviously, I know Liam Lawson didn't finish P3 where he qualified. Again, spoiler alert. You know all this, of course you do. But seeing Carlos up there, vindicated for the poor luck. He was P18 in the Driver Championship before this weekend. He's not P18 anymore, that's for sure, with 15 points on the board. Lovely jubbly. Right, what are you saying? In the YouTube Live poll, 36% of you have given this race rating a 7. 35% of you. 30% of you a 6. 26% of you a 5 or below. For me, I'm giving it a 6. Giving it a 6. Very exciting, interesting, intriguing qualifying, which definitely helps. And we saw some all right moves. We saw some intrigue. Obviously, Oscar having his big oopsie early doors. There wasn't a huge amount of wheel to wheel, and even with the C4 to C6 compound range, the amount of one stops that were viable was unfortunate. Imagine if they'd run the C3 to C5 that they did last year, this year. I mean, Jesus Christ, that we wouldn't have needed to pit at all. Kind of crazy. So I'm giving it a 6, bumped up by the qualifying. Baku's cool. I enjoy watching the race. The sense of speed is incredible. They've improved the onboard cameras. Yeah, from an entertainment point of view, I enjoyed watching the race, but it was bang average Grand Prix, and you get extra props for a mad Saturday. But yeah, to have the new softest compound, the C6 involved. No one really used the soft during the race. However, it was the C5 and C4s getting used the most, and people were able to make a one-stop work, which is kind of crazy. And Louise, thank you for the super chat. Do you think Max is back on for the World Drivers' Championship fights? We'll get into that. We will get into that. But in a word, no. In a word, no. I don't actually think he's in this fight, because that Red Bull won't, I believe, be consistently quick enough to make up the 69-point gap to Oscar Piastri for the remainder of the season. If every single race was Monza and Baku for the remainder of the season, sure. Why not? But no. Sorry, I don't. I don't. As much as that would be great vibes, seeing Max hunt the two Papayans down, I don't think that's the way it's going to play out. It is Max, I'll give you that, Rob. It is Max, you are right. But no, I don't think it's going to happen. Anyway, let's reflect on qualifying first of all. Again, Mr. Verstappen, almost a tenth, not quite a tenth. Sorry, almost half a second, not quite half a second, ahead of Carlos Sainz in the end, who was ahead of Liam Lawson and Kimi Antonelli and George Russell and Yuki Tsunoda and Lando Norris and Isaac Hadjar and Piastri and Leclerc both crashed in Q3, didn't they? Yeah, it's one of them that I think Lando went out. Lando did genuinely have a very unlucky weekend when you look at a lot of things in isolation. You know, going out early in qualifying, the long pit stop, I do think cost him at least a couple of positions in the race, etc., etc. But Max, in those conditions where the wind's picking up, there's a bit of moisture on the track, you're not quite sure what you're driving into, he just always seems to find a way, doesn't he? He always seems to find a way to get it done. So Max on pole, superb job. Superb job from Carlos as well. And Liam just kind of maximising the car underneath them and putting it up there in P2, P3. Just very... and look, Antonelli as well, man. Like, Kimi needs some momentum. And I think out-qualifying George Russell in the race. Didn't finish behind his teammate. But out-qualifying George, Kimi needed a decent weekend. And I think he's just had one. So, love it. Carlos still has potential. And listen, X-Force, look, if you've been looking hard enough, Carlos, and he said this himself, this kind of result, maybe not podium necessarily, and obviously there's you know, both McLarens not being in the picture, etc., etc. There's a lot of context behind, you know, getting on the podium. But this kind of result, you know, he was putting in good enough performances to deliver a performance every bit as good as what Alex Albon's been able to deliver in the Williams. We just haven't been able to see it yet. The stars haven't aligned, but they did this time out. Yuki Tsunoda P6, best qualifying result in an Oracle Red Bull Racing car. Still almost a second off of Max. Obviously, the conditions were a bit mad and a bit changeable, so fair enough. And then, yeah, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, both just caught out by the wind. Ocon got disqualified because something was wrong with the rear wing. The production, the Dallara produced rear wing failed. An inspection, and then obviously Albon crashed. And I mean, Alex's crash was I think the most, I don't know, I don't feel like Alex got caught out by the wind with that one. He just misjudged the apex and turned in too soon. It's a shame because given what Carlos did, should I say, this weekend, and we've said this many a time, haven't we? Both Williams are not allowed to have a good weekend. It has to be one or the other. Imagine if both Williams were getting good luck and having good weekend, they'd be miles clear of the rest in the Constructors' Championship. So, Albon, Gasly went straight on, Colapinto crashed, Behrman hit the wall, and obviously Leclerc Piastri. So, it was chaos on Saturday. Baku did what Baku does, but that led to a very, very interesting grid for Sunday. But first of all, head-to-heads. 20 of 30 now done so far this season. 20 of 30 qualifying sessions. 24 main race qualifications. 6 sprints. And these are the averages. And actually, there's been quite a bit of movement here. So, biggest gap on average, of course, remains Verstappen Tsunoda, now 0.63 of a second. Then it's Alonso ahead of Stroll, 0.338. Then Russell Antonelli, 0.270. Kimi out-qualifying George this time out. Then Leclerc Hamilton, 0.198, basically 2 tenths. Then Gasly Colapinto, because Colapinto put a good few tenths on Pierre this weekend in quali. Brings that average down to 0.161 of a second. And we said, I think Franco is trending in a positive direction. And the car was clearly a wheelie bin this weekend. Is that Minton I hear at the door? Hang on a second. What are you doing? You're meant to be kipping. And also, he's going to try and jump on this bed behind me, but you're too small, mate. Right, do you want to come up here? Come on. Ow. God, my back is not in good enough condition. Do you want to just sit on my lap? Right. I think Minton's gonna join us. Are you gonna join us? Or do you want to go on the bed behind? I'll tell you what, you go on the bed behind. There you go. So if we go briefly full screen, you would be able to see him, but he's literally just gone out of shot. So why are you trying to get up there? Don't make me put the ugly bed covers in the background, Minton, just to accommodate your just sit here. Go on, just sit there. If he curled up right there, that would be immaculate framing for this stream. But I don't think he's going to... maybe. Well, we'll just leave him there. I'm trying to climb out the window, mate. Anyway, I digress. Quality head-to-head. Hadjar Lawson, basically a tenth and a half. Piastri Norris, basically a tenth. What I did with Piastri Norris, because of course Oscar did crash and didn't set a lap in Q3, is that I used their Q2 times. Sometimes I've got to do that if I want to get a valid comparison. And Lando was quicker, not by much actually in Q2. It was very fractional. In fact, where is it on my spreadsheet? It was only 18 thousandths of a second. Norris was quicker than Piastri. Now, you might say, well, that's not fair because Oscar crashed, blah, blah, blah. I have to use some numbers. And so that's the ones I'm using. Going to have to deal with it. Bortoletto, Hulkenberg, once again, Gabriel again out-qualifies Nico. He is, I think, bang for buck right now. If I had to ask, if everyone had to, top trumps for F1 drivers, right? I think Bortoletto would be biggest bang for buck right now because I think he's absolutely cooking and I think it's not getting the plaudits it deserves. Honestly, if you had to give me a rookie from my team, from the rookies lineup this year, I think I would go Bortoletto over Hadjar. I actually do. And Hadjar's been amazing. This is no shade on Isaac at all. But Gabby, c'est magnifique. C'est magnifique. Sainz jumps ahead of Albon in the quali head-to-head by 0.02 of a second. 20 thousandths of a second on average is being quicker than Albon now. And Behrman also jumps ahead of Ocon. Now on average 10 thousandths or 1/100th of a second. Basically marginal between the Haas and Williams teammates. But interesting to keep track of over the course of the season. Interesting to keep track of over the course of the season, in my opinion. Anyway, so the race. What happened? Max won. Ahead of George, ahead of Carlos, ahead of Kimi, Liam, Yuki, Lando, Lewis Charles, Ferrari, man, Ferrari. Oh, we'll get into that. We will get into that, don't you worry. And then Isaac, P10, which was pretty good considering that his car looked like it might not even start the race beforehand for Isaac Hadjar. So tough. Then Bortoleto, Behrman, Albon, 10-second penalty for taking out Colapinto. Absolutely correct decision. He made a lunge where there was nowhere near enough space and spun out Franco, which was annoying. Ocon, Alonso, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Gasly, Colapinto, Alpines, giving Mazepin, Schumacher, Haas vibes this weekend. The Alpine, Colapinto did a cracking job to hold off, to create a train behind him for as long as he did. But wow, the Alpines were absolute a mile off the back. Not good. Their PU, ERS deficiencies fully on show this weekend. And of course, Oscar Piastri. Jump start, crash. After crashing qualifying. My goodness. What an absolute howler from Oscar. What an absolute howler. So, the driver standings are as follows. 25 points between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Lando didn't like the question being asked. Opportunity missed. Look, factually, objectively, of course. Do I think Lando could have done much more in his own performance? Perhaps in moments, and he said it himself, the damage was done in qualifying, going out too early. Just didn't kind of have the conditions underneath him to get it done. He was caught out by a lot of the red flags that were coming out when he was on good laps, etc., etc. In the race, that pit stop, I think, is killer. I know Andrea Stella said that it didn't cost Lando position. I don't agree. And I do think it is more bad luck manifesting against Lando that prevented him from closing that gap. And I think Oscar Piastri can count himself very lucky that Lando only took, 8 points. Brought that gap down by 8 points. It was 6 points. P7. What's P7? 6 points? P10 is 1. P9 is 2. P8 P8 is 4. Which means P7 is 6. It's 6 points, not 8. You idiot. Anyway. Max Verstappen, 255 points. Right, we need a poll for this. Is Max realistically in with a chance of winning this title? Right, they've got 4 potential options. So absolutely yes. Yeah. And then hell no. Okay, there we go. Just go with whatever feels right. YouTube live stream. Is Max realistically in with a chance of winning this title? 69 points behind Oscar Piastri with 10 qualies to go. 7 Grand Prix, 3 sprints. Is that right? Is that? I don't know. I think that's what it is, isn't it? Surely. Ask again after Singapore. Yeah, I mean that's valid. The Red Bull has struggled over the bump fest that is Singapore, playing havoc with their very stiff car setup. Will that be the case again this year? Perhaps. Singapore is a bit of an outlier. You would expect the Red Bulls to struggle around there relative to particularly the McLaren, of course. Darth, absolutely 1000% yes. Max can do this. Look, and again, Max is best driver in F1, one of the greatest of all time, without any shadow of a doubt. He is also a human being. He is not a robot. He is not AI. And that Red Bull car, Max can't run around the track on his own. He's got to drive the car, right? So that car clearly has limitations. However, that floor upgrade in Monza does seem to have unlocked some performance. Now, we've saw that performance manifest itself in Monza. We saw it manifest in Baku, but will it manifest in, Singapore? Will it manifest in Interlagos? Max is great around Interlagos, but will the car work as well there? Will it work in Mexico? Will it work in Qatar? Abu Dhabi? What are you saying? 440 of you voted. 4% of you say absolutely yes. 25% of you, yeah. 56% of you, 15% of you, hell no. I mean, look. What is absolutely fair to say is that for there to be any chance of Max to win this title, he needs the McLarens to trip over each other. He needs something to start going on there. And there is a chance. There is a good chance, because as this championship gets closer to the edge, it's more likely that Oscar and Lando, they'll break rank, they'll do their own thing, they'll act in their own self-interest to try and win the title when there is only a 26-point, whatever the gap is, 25-point gap between the two of them now. And that opens up opportunity, right? In the same way that when Max won his very first F1 race in 2016 in Spain. How did that happen? Because Hamilton and Rosberg crashed into each other. Teammates, scrapping, they crash, nil points for both of them. Max wins the race. Now, if that kind of situation plays out, even just once, then the pressure of Max being there, that gap comes down again. It's for me, I am not just to, go with the crowd, but it is, I'm not saying hell no, because that kind of stuff can happen, right? And we are, again, getting closer to the end of the season. And Lando and Oscar, and Oscar's clearly feeling the pressure, right? Because he's just had an absolute stinker, very out of character for him. Lando has executed, again, could he have done more? I'm sure he could have done more this weekend, but also a lot of things did seem to go against Lando this weekend. I think that's very fair to say. I'm saying I'm aligning with a 56%. I'm not quite saying a yeah. And like many of you say, we'll see what happens in Singapore. The best thing that can happen for Max, because if Max can get a big point swing on the McLaren boys in Singapore, then it becomes a yeah. Then it becomes a yeah. And I said this earlier in the year. Having the McLarens up there and Max chasing them down, that is going to ignite this title fight in a way that, because it's been stale. It's been so stale. As a fan, it's been just, But there you go. We'll see. We've got a long way to go. Other points, Antonelli jumps back ahead of Albon. Woo, great. Yeah, lovely job there. Science, obviously a big beneficiary, moves from P18 to P12 in the driver's standings. Lawson jumps up big time as well, but really none of these places matter. It's actually not that important. What is important is the constructors, which has moved a bit because Mercedes, a big point swing on Ferrari this weekend, so they move ahead of the Scuderia by 4 points, 290 to 286. And Red Bull, 33 points. Max with his 25, Yuki with his 8. Only 18 points off Mercedes. Now, Yuki this weekend was quicker, was better. He was still a second off of Max in qualifying. And hang on, let me just double check how many seconds. Which, look, of course, Max was in clean air the entire Grand Prix. Yuki was, in obviously behind Lawson at the end. And a pretty clean air first stint, to be fair, did Yuki. Yuki finished 33, close to 34 seconds behind Max in the end. But again, Max had clean air the whole race. This was definitely Yuki's strongest weekend, of course. The problem is, a track like Baku, the second driver has not had as much of an issue around a track like Baku, where it's all short speed, it's traction zones. I mean, Checo was able to beat Max around Baku, right? In 23, wasn't it? The start of the year. Checo beat Max with Max there, and Checo beat him. Like, realistic, like Yuki's performance this weekend was better than it has been at any point so far this season. But compared to what Checo was able to do last year and what Checo was able to do the year prior, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to think about it. It is kind of crazy. So we will see, of course, with Cadillac whether we get Checo back firing on all cylinders like we know he can. And I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, other than that, Racing Bulls move ahead of Aston Martin as well. So they move up to P6, Aston Martin down to P7. So, I mean, they had a quick car this weekend. Hadjar finished like 20 seconds ahead of Bortoletto, I want to say. Like, it was a big gap. It was a big gap. What can I say? And then, obviously, Alpine didn't score any points because they were so slow this weekend. Of course. Sad times. Right, cool. Team standards done. Brief F2 overview before we jump into the chats. Jack Crawford won the race. He is P2 in the F2 standings going into the... How many rounds? I actually don't know how many rounds are left in F2. Ahead of Dirksen, ahead of Boganovic in the feature race. Wow, that was... If you haven't seen Roman Stanek's awful rejoin when he took out John Bennett. Wow. Like, what an absolute calamity that was. Qatar and Abu Dhabi. Thank you, Halita. Yeah, 2 rounds left in F2 this year. Crawford's got a shot, you know. And he's part of the Aston Martin Academy at the minute. Would it surprise me if Cadillac picked him up? Absolutely not. I think Crawford hurt her. Because Crawford could be reserve driver. Herter, obviously, doing his F2 season. If Crawford wins F2, he's not allowed to do F2 again. So he will be like, well, I want to do something. Can I be reserve driver for Cadillac? He will have the super license points to be a full-out reserve driver, whereas Herter doesn't have those super license points. Hence why he'll only be a test driver to start with. So, yeah. I mean, good luck, Jack. Obviously, Fornaroli leads the championship. And with 2 rounds to go, we will see how it all plays out. The next generation, who's getting in, you know. But obviously, Crawford's Americanism will undoubtedly play in his favour. I know, you know, they want to claim it's pure meritocracy, of course, but having a driver of US pedigree is clearly important to the Cadillac project. No doubt. Right, okay. That poll's done. We'll wrap that one up. Lovely jubbly. And, yeah, Stanek got off very lightly. He did, yeah. I mean, again, watch it for yourself. It is appalling. He obviously just didn't see him. Like, it's clearly not malicious. It's just a terrible, awful lack of judgment to just drive in Bosch. Craig, is Colton Hurt going to dominate F2 next year? What if he doesn't? I mean, Craig, there's no guarantee. Like, you look at... I think Colton needs to be in a good team, really. Like, that is the first key thing. You look at someone like Ritomo Miata, you know, won Super Formula, which is a championship where Gasly's gone and raced in. Like, it's a good, very good level. And Ritomo's kind of been nowhere in F2. He hasn't really been able to make an impression in F2 at all. Yeah, there's zero guarantee, and that's why it's, you know, Colton's taking a gamble, but he's choosing to take himself to Europe, bring himself over here, this side of the pond, and race the F2 calendar, get some experience in these tracks, test drive for Cadillac whilst he's probably doing some FP1s, because he will be able to do FP1s, to get his super license ahead of 2027, and then if a door opens, the door opens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And also, if they do bring in Crawford, they will have, you know, Crawford has been part of the European scene for a long time now. He's tested for Aston Martin. He's raced in F2. Could win it this year. He was competitive last year as well with Jack. So they will have a good, you know, yardstick. If Crawford's looking better than Herter, yeah, Crawford's younger than Herter as well. It'll be good for... I think they'll learn. They know what they've got in Colton Herter. And I think bringing Jack Crawford in... Obviously, this is all speculation, right? They might not bring him in. But it will be great experience for Crawford to be alongside a driver like Herta, and it will be a great yardstick to be like, look, this is F2 champion, possibly vice champion, maybe. Can you, how can you perform relative to him in F2? It's kind of interesting. Meritocracy in F1 is a myth. I mean, yeah, that's very valid. That is very valid. Right, I've got a bunch of super chats here. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate you all. Nick, thank you for the Canadian. Appreciate it. Is this the best rookie class we've seen in F1? Well, it's the biggest rookie class we've seen in F1. I think that's for sure. Yeah, look, I think, Behrman, Antonelli, Hadjar, Bortoletto, these guys are going to be in F1 for a long time. I think they've already shown that they have the ability, the pedigree to have long-standing careers in this sport. I think Colapinto is starting to show something. It's very early on. Obviously, Liam kind of isn't a rookie, however you want to look at it. But yeah, there's been some, I think, again, Bortoletto, for me, is absolutely superb. I really rate him. Hadjar's been a breath of fresh air. Great character, great personality, quick. Kid's got it. I think, obviously, Ollie, he's shown what he can do already in Ferrari. And I think he's now averaging slightly quicker than Ocon, who's a very established driver. I think Ollie's here for the time. And look, Antonelli, it's P4 this time out. The peaks have been amazing for Kimi. So, best rookie class? Yeah, I guess, yeah. If you're judging the entire class, I would say so. DH, thank you for the super chat. Colapinto and Bortoletto drinking a bottle of water. There you go. €2 for that. Great value. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate the super chat. Hi, Tomo. Given Red Bull's steady uptick since Laurent Mekies took the helm, does he possess the silver bullet to get them back to the top? Thanks. Did I say racing balls? Given Red Bulls, I'm sure. I feel like I said racing balls because I saw Laurent Mekies in the message. Does he possess the silver bullet to get them back to the top? No, because I think a silver bullet doesn't exist in F1. It's just not that straightforward. Now, of course, having the right person at the top, they can make hires, they can look around, they can change processes, but ultimately they're still reliant on the human beings who are executing those roles to fulfill their potential. So I think Laurent, he comes across very well. He's very technically driven because of his technical background, which is the trend that all these teams are moving towards, whether it's Wheatley, whether it's Stella, whether it's Komatsu, etc., etc. That just seems to be the strategy that is working best. Fred, Toto, kind of a dying breed of team principals who aren't that way-minded and are more just team principle, business-minded in terms of Toto's point of view. Fred has run teams for years, not being an engineer himself. So he's not a silver bullet, but I've been impressed. I've been impressed with the outcomes, I guess. And the way that Max has been talking about the process changes and stuff like that, it does feel like there's a good vibe. There's a good vibe knocking about Milton Keynes at the minute. Thank you, Rick. Last time Max finished a race outside the points was Spa 2016. He is a robot. Well, I mean, what happened in Spa 2016? Why didn't he? If he was a robot, he'd have finished in top 10 then, Rick. Come on. No, don't get me wrong. Max will extract the maximum out of whatever you give him. No question. But also, they're going to be... Singapore, the Red Bull is not going to be as quick as the McLaren. And it doesn't matter how good Max is. He's not going to be able to overcome the shortcomings of that car relative to the McLaren. Unless the McLarens crash into each other. Which is what Max kind of needs to be in this title fight. And again, realistically, I don't think that's going to happen. Thank you, Luisma, as well. If the gap between Verstappen and the McLaren gets shortened further in the next 2 races, time to get serious and apply team orders for McLaren and Piastri to lead. Ooh, well, that's definitely not going to happen. Because look, Luisma, at the end of the day, McLaren have the constructors done, right? So McLaren have very little to gain. They have nothing, I would argue, to gain by enforcing team orders when they've already won the constructors. Because if they try and enforce team orders, all they will do is annoy people and annoy their drivers, whichever driver's on the receiving end, blah, 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 annoy the fan base, annoy everyone. They'll just annoy everyone. All McLaren need to do, right, we're going to win the constructors. They should have won it this weekend. They didn't, but they'll win it next weekend, whatever. Just give your drivers equal opportunity. Give them an equal package, which is what they're doing, right? But don't interfere beyond that. Just, right, Lando, Oscar, you can do strategy to your heart's content with your team. You can try and strategize against each other. You can try undercuts, blah, 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 all this stuff. If you have a bad pit stop, bad pit stop. That happens. If your car breaks down, that happens, right? We will just give you equal opportunity, and through merit and a bit of luck, whoever will win will win. That's all McLaren need to do. And look, if Max comes through and swipes the driver's title, well, McLaren have won the constructors anyway. And if Max does that, he would have done that on that. Now we're past the point of a McLaren trying to do team orders. That is just not going to happen. And again, I don't. That just creates more headaches, if you ask me, for the team in Papaya, who have already. They've got a. They like to make it difficult for themselves, don't they? Oh, McLaren. They like to forget it. They like to make it difficult for themselves. So, yeah. Game's the game. Game is the game. Right. Okay. Let's go bangers and clangers. Starting with mine. Max Verstappen, banger driver. Yes, please. Thank you very much. I told you so. To everyone who's like, oh, Red Bull shill. Oh, now he works for Red Bull. Blah, blah, blah. Shut up. I was right. You were wrong. Go away. Come back. No, the interaction is great. Come back. DH, you're impressed. Appreciate that. Franco, banger drive. Again, relative to out-qualified Pierre. Finished ahead of Pierre, even though he got spun out by Alex. But I can't give him banger. Come on, that's pushing it a bit much. Clanger Kimi, no, actually. Did all right this weekend. Out-qualified George. Kept it clean in the race. P4 in the end. Good points on the boards. Red Bull Racing banger team. Yes, I will say that. I mean, delivered Max a car that he could win in. And Yuki got his best result so far of his Red Bull Racing career, P6. So I think banger team Red Bull is fair. And Clanger team Haas. It wasn't great. They were both out the points. But they definitely didn't clang enough for me to even give myself half a point. So, yeah. Bangers and clangers. I've got 2 out of 5. As for you. Oh, you suck. You suck. 811 of you predicted on Thursday. Oscar Piastri race winner. L. Hold that. Hold it. I want every single one of you to hold that L. Take it to bed with you. Think about what you've done. Oscar Piastri race winner, absolutely not. Charles Leclerc banger drive. No, crashed in qualifying. Couldn't really make much progress during the race either. Difficult weekend for Ferrari. Clanger drive, Lewis, no. I mean, again, difficult weekend out in Q2. But I think recovered as well as he could have in the race. I'm not giving you a point for that. Brandon, half a point for Lewis? Absolutely not. I'm not giving you a point for that. Banger team, Ferrari. No. Could have been maybe better, could have been better maybe, but qualifying for Lewis, he wanted a different tyre, he didn't have enough time to get it on, blah, 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 all this. They're definitely not a banger team. I'm not going to waste my time. Clanger team Alpine, well done. Well done. Well done. I hope you're proud of yourself. Because, of course, Alpine, we're going to clang this weekend. Duh. So I win. 2-1. Have some of that. Jog on. So those are the predictions. But what about the actual predictions? Well, bangers and clangers time. Who banged, who clanged at the 2025 Azerbaijan Grand Prix? Starting with my pick, my banger driver. My banger driver this weekend. There's a number of names that you could easily chuck into this. Obviously, Max, pole, comfortable conversion to win. Of course, Liam Lawson, amazing qualifying, holding up the field, maintaining that P5 with pressure the entire Grand Prix, with all the difficulty he's been through this year as well. All that context, massively impressive. Great drive from Liam. Even, Isaac, bringing that car to P10. He had a bad safety car restart, granted. But considering, that car almost didn't make it to start the race, he did pretty well. George Russell as well. He's sick. He did not sound like George Russell this weekend. You listen to the interviews after. He does not sound like George Russell. That sounds like a different person. But he not felt well this weekend. He was saying actually that if this weekend was at a more physically demanding track, he might have actually not raced, and it would have been Valtteri jumping in instead. If this was a Singapore this weekend, then he would have chucked the towel in because he wasn't feeling well enough. But fortunately for him, Baku is pretty low in terms of, because it's all slow speed, you're not pulling a ton of G-force through corners. Yes, you're going very quick in a straight line, but the cornering forces aren't anywhere near what they'd be around a Zandvoort or a Singapore. Obviously, Singapore, you've got the temperature factor as well, etc., etc. However, for me, of course, it has to be Vamos. Carlos Sainz is getting banger drive for me and for you. 1,439 of you voted, and 58% of you went Carlos Sainz for banger driver. 21% of you went Max Verstappen, 12% Liam Lawson, 6% George Russell. But we are in agreement. Carlos Sainz, banger driver. Given everything that's happened this year, it's been a proper slog for him. P18 in the driver standings before this weekend. Now P12, 15 points. Well deserved. Great execution in qualifying. And held his own in the race. Kept Kimi Antonelli behind. Didn't even give Kimi a sniff. And what? Only a few seconds behind George Russell in the end. George in a Mercedes, for crying out loud. Williams have come on leaps and bounds. All the more frustrating as an Albon fan that he didn't deliver the weekend that he should have done, because there were big points on the table. Carlos Sainz ate all those points up, and Alex did not, which I am sad about as a Albon fan. But listen, the podium, of course I'd love an Albon podium, but Alex has had more than enough points this year. He's had more than enough W's. I'm happy with Carlos' podium. The vibes were great. Him sprinting over, jumping to the team, giving them all a hug. And also Ferrari having an absolute howler of a weekend. You know what? Maybe it was a switch up from Carlos moving from Ferrari to Williams. Maybe Lewis Hamilton did Carlos a favour. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. Verstappen 21. Fair. Lawson 12. Yeah, I mean, look, it's for a driver who doesn't seem to be all that popular, judging by these streams and judging by the community, blah, blah, blah. 12% is not as high as maybe it should be, but I think Liam can take that. 6% George Russell as well. Superb drive from George. Loved that. Carlos should have had 55%. That would have been very nice. So banger drive, Carlos Sainz. Clanger drive this weekend. I mean, there's two. There are just two drivers. It's Oscar Piastri or Alex Albon, isn't it? Both crashed in qualifying. Oscar false started, then crashed on lap 1. pushing too hard on the outside, dirty air, and dirty side of the track, shunted into the wall in turn 5. Alex took out Colapinto, so got a 10-second penalty. And you look at what Carlos was able to extract from the weekend, and Alex left a lot on the table. Between the two, like they did have an equally bad weekend. I think that I know who I've put because I've already done the graphic, but I think objectively, Piastri by a mile. How did Piastri have a mile worse weekend than Alex? Like, they both had an absolute howler. How was Piastri's way worse, Martin? Sorry, Alex crashed in qualifying on a weekend where his teammate was on the podium, and then in the race took someone out and got a 10-second penalty. Like, I get Piastri also crashed in the race, but Alex still took someone out. Championship's on the line, I understand that, but you're looking at this race in isolation. I mean, I don't know why I'm arguing, because I've gone Oscar Piastri clanger driver. Right? I do think Oscar Piastri clanger slightly more, but by a mile, I'm not saying it's not worse. I've gone Oscar clanger. I'm saying by a mile, come on, by a mile, behave. So yeah, Oscar Piastri clanger drive. I agree. Don't worry. Don't shout. Stop shouting at me. And your clanger drive is Oscar Piastri with 82% of the vote. Now, work this out. 82% Oscar Piastri, 8% Lando Norris, 7% Alex Albon. More of you went Norris clanger than Albon. Now, again, you know I prop Alex at any opportunity I get, right? And I will always do that. But there is no way Lando had a bigger clang this weekend than Alex. Now, yes, did Lando massively exploit the opportunity? No, but also, you know, it's not his fault he has a long pit stop and then can't get the undercut on Tsunoda, which I do think made the difference, at least in a couple of those positions. And DRS trains, everyone was stuck in him this weekend. So, I mean, that's a bit... That's a bit much. That's a bit much. Because, again, I'm very happy to put my hands up when Alex Albon has a clanger. And that was one of those clangers. And yes, Lando didn't, again, I know he didn't fully capitalise on the opportunity. But that wasn't all entirely his fault. There were also other factors. So, either way, we agree. I just spent far too long arguing with you lot. But turns out we agree. So... Don't know why I do it. Right, so banger and clanger, we are aligned. We are perfectly aligned. But what about banger team? I've gone Red Bull, and so have you. 44% of the vote for Red Bull Racing. For you, I am one of those 44% because Max won the race. They delivered a car that can win the Grand Prix pretty convincingly. And actually, Yuki did a good job, was able to, again, objectively, Mercedes P2 and P4 is better in terms of average position when you combine the drivers. But I think Red Bull this weekend, Yuki was able to show something. Still not enough. Of course, not enough, but something. A step forward. So I'm giving it Red Bull. And so have you. 44% of you went Red Bull. 36% of you went Mercedes. 11% Williams. And 9% Racing Bulls. Racing Bulls. Williams, man. Like, Williams as a team. Like, it was Alex who crashed. And it was Alex who took out Franco. Without them, it's so annoying. Because you feel like, man, Alex could have had a proper good finishing position. I almost feel like, to the point with Alex where it's like I feel like with West Ham, like when we have a clanger, I'm like really hard on West Ham when we have a bad game, which is all the time now, almost to the point I'm just exhausted of it. when Alex has a stinker, I'm like, because I want him to do so well, you know, and I know there's so much potential, there's so much ability. And when he has a weekend like this, I'm like, bro, come on. I know you're better than this. But fine margins in this game at the end of the day. Anyway, I'm still talking about Alex Albon. Shock. Right, so banger team, Red Bull, we agree. Clanger team, I have gone Alpine because that is objectively the clanger team this weekend. Of course, again, they were giving Schumacher Mazepin Haas vibes. Absolute country mile off the back. Not good. However, you lot do not agree. You've gone McLaren. 63% of the votes, which, look, again, no points for Oscar. Lando P7, bad pit stop, did not help him at all either. Probably lost him a couple of places. 23% of you went Alpine, 9% Ferrari, 3% Aston Martin. Yeah, I mean, I guess the McLaren was quick enough this weekend to have a double podium. I think that's just clear when you look at Q1, Q2. But drivers made mistakes, perhaps as well. The team sending Lando out early in Q3 was a mistake in hindsight. It's a combination of driver error and team error, ultimately, for the Papines. So, yeah, I get it. But Alpine were definitely worse. So, you are wrong. Can Alpine win F2? Do you reckon? Just demote Alpine to a F2 and see how they do? And then see if they just get Prema promoted in their place. So, yeah, bangers and clangers. Identical bar clanger team. There you go. So, just to round up things, you can feel free to look at these on screen if you want. These are just the totals so far this year that I'm collating. These are my totals. So, almost everyone's been nominated for something at some point. And these are yours. I'm not going to go through all of these. It's just information on screen. Feel free to have a look at it if you want. Feel free to not if you don't. You know, do whatever you want. So it's a free world. Well, it's not really, is it? But I don't want to get too deep on that. Right. Okay. We are 53 minutes in. Excellent. Should we go team by team? Let's go team by team. And then we can just kind of cover over anything else that we haven't already. And the first team that appeared on screen was Red Bull Racing. What haven't I said already? Again, great drive from Max. Superb execution in qualifying, which paid dividends. And when you've got Sainz and Lawson, though Sainz was keeping decent pace with Max at the start, but Max was on the hard, Sainz was on the medium. So, yeah, I mean, the damage was done where all of Max's direct competitors had some kind of clanger in qualifying, and that, of course, he made it look easy because that's what Max does. But yeah, that did make his life easier than it would have been if he'd have had two McLarens breathing down his neck. And yeah, Yuki, look, again, I'm not going to get carried away with this because he's a second off Max in qualifying. He's finished 30 seconds down the road from Max as well. But when you take into account the traffic he was in versus the clean air Max had, Yuki's shown something here, and Lauren Mekies has mentioned this about, they need some clean data on Yuki. And I think this is a weekend where they've got some pretty clean data on him. And we just need to see more of this. There's obviously a lot of rumours knocking about, like, to the extent where, like, Ted's saying, like, oh, he's almost certainly going to get dropped, which, like, I wish I had some behind-the-scenes information. I know nothing. All I know is that if they did drop Yuki for Hajjal, be that mid-season for next year, personally, I wouldn't agree with it. I think they should stick. Because we've seen this thing churning far too often, right? We know Yuki's a quality driver. He has a 100% Q3/SQ3 record this season in a Racing Bulls car. And then in the Red Bull, it's a different beast. It's a different machine. It's, the adaptation, blah, blah, blah. We know this. We've talked about this to death. So, yeah, I think that I hope that we continue to see these positive iterations moving forward from Yuki, and that he can show what he can do and gets at least a shot at whatever this Red Bull car looks like in 26. If Yuki's has a terrible start to 26, then yeah, maybe you chuck Hadjar in. But I really hope they stay put. I really hope they stick as they are. And welcome Flash Barry, by the way. Hi from Jamaica, first stream. Appreciate it, Barry. Thank you for coming. Yeah, other than that, Red Bull, yeah, look, it just feels like whatever that upgrade bought in Monza has worked around Monza and Azerbaijan. Two very low drag circuits. Let's see about Singapore, because that's a different kettle of fish entirely. Right, so that's Red Bull. Next team, Aston Martin. Wow, Aston Martin, Jesus. They were non-existent. Obviously, Alonso, very unfortunate. Like, Piastri jumped the start, which then provoked Alonso, who was behind Piastri, to jump the start himself. Which you can see how that happens, of course. So then he gets a penalty. He put a decent chunk of time on Lance in qualifying. I want to say he put... Well, it was over a second in quali. When you look at their gap in, I want to say it was Q2. But obviously, there's a lot of factors that went into that qualifying session. It's hard to get a good read on relative gaps. But either way, yeah. Fernando, penalty, Lance just kind of stuck in. It was just nothing really. I mean, mid-5 is pretty generous. And yeah, Stroll stuck behind Colapinto. Stroll was the lead car in that Colapinto train for a pretty long time on that first stint. So, yeah. Tough weekend for Aston Martin. They've not got a package that can be competitive everywhere. That is clear and obvious. But they do have a package where some weekends they can cook. But now they've lost P6 to Racing Bulls, and it feels like the Racing Bulls is a more complete car. They weren't great in Monza, the Racing Bulls, but then they were really good here, Baku, which in many ways is similar in terms of characteristics. So... Tough. Mercedes. George, given he's not been feeling anywhere near 100% this weekend, to get P2 in the end is actually very impressive. He said, we didn't do anything particularly special this weekend. A lot of drivers around us struggled, had issues, and just a matter of not making mistakes and capitalising, which is classic George Russell. Just does... That's the whole meme. Does nothing, is P2, is podium, is win, whatever. That's just what George does. He just goes about his business, no faffing about. Doesn't even sound like George Russell this weekend. P2, 18 points on the board. So, yeah, I think George, maximised his weekend. And, yeah, Antonelli needed a half-decent result, and I think he's just got one. So good. Want to see him progress. These young kids are being thrown in the deep end in F1, and teams must see something in them, enough in them, and we've seen enough peaks from Antonelli to know that he can do it. He has the potential. They kind of split the strategies a bit with him as well, and they were right to tell him to invert position, let George go ahead, let George try to kind of make some progress, get ahead of Tsunoda, and then kind of drive off a bit into the distance. But well done, Kimi. Well done. Proud of him. Good to see him actually complete the weekend around a track that caught out so many drivers, particularly on Saturday. That's where this one bites rookies, big time. And actually, the only rookie who really got bitten this weekend was Behrman in qualifying. And even then, he recovered pretty well in the race. So, it is what it is. Williams. Yeah, look, they have been... The Constructors' Championship makes them look, in my opinion. Did my OBS just disconnect, by the way? Wow. Is my mum's internet letting me down? I mean, no one in chat's... Oh, no, someone did say lag in chat. Has her got some lag? I can't believe it. My mum's internet, that's meant to be the most clutch internet in the world, has just briefly lagged. Well, it's only a little bit of lag. All right. Okay. I'm going to have some words. It's not good enough, Mum. Not good enough. No, look, I think Williams, they've left so many points on the table this year with either Sainz or Albon having a stinker or a car issue. I think when Carlos's car caught fire, like there's so many instances this year where Williams left big points on the table. I think those points go to someone, right? Those points have been distributed amongst all the other midfield teams. They've been kind of on their own, really. Like, Sainz expects them to be terrible in Qatar, for example. There's been a few weekends when they're kind of nowhere, but generally speaking, they are comfortably best of the rest and kind of on their own a bit. Kira, only one of them is good every weekend, which is kind of tough. But Sainz has absolutely merited more from this year, and I could not believe he was P18 in the Drivers' Championship after last weekend, and now he's P12 with the P3 podium. So well deserved, Vamos. Love your work. Let's just hope this is all worth it in 26. When I think about teams that have genuinely got a decent chance next year, I obviously think McLaren. I obviously think Ferrari, because I think you have to expect Ferrari to be very good next year. Williams, oh man. Please, James Vowles, please, Mercedes, make good to give Alex and Carlos a chance, please. I'm not a religious man, but please. Please. I need Williams to be competitive at the front next year. I need it. I don't use those words. I need it. Please. Maybe that's a bit dramatic, but please, come on, make it happen. And yeah, Albon stinker, Carlos fantastic. What more can I say? Nothing more to say. McLaren. Oh dear. Right. So I've already said enough about Lando. Oscar. What do we think? It's a mistake in qualifying. Was he caught out by the breeze, the wind? That caught out Charles, that caught out Franco, that caught out Ollie, that caught out so many drivers. It's a reason. It's not an excuse. I think looking at practice, it felt like Lando had something on Oscar this weekend. And my assumption, my logic is that Oscar felt like he needed to just push that little bit too close to the limit. And when you've got wind that you can't predict, you drive it into a corner hoping for a certain amount of downforce, hoping for a certain headwind, tailwind, again, wind direction, wind speed, all factors in. And I think Oscar, because he seemed to be at a slight pace deficit to Lando, was pushing too close to the line, and I think Charles Leclerc was guilty of the same, because that's how Charles qualifies, he's all or nothing, and got caught out. And then obviously in the race, it's a rookie error. That's what a jump start is. It's a rookie error. And then he's over pushed trying to recover on the dirty side of the track. And look, he took full responsibility and said, I should have known that there'd be... He obviously knew there was less grip and downforce on that outside of the track, but he misjudged it, went in too deep and into the wall, and he's gone from possibly being able to recover a few points or more if, I don't know, some strategy gamble would paid off, whatever. Unlikely. To no points, and should have been a way more damaging weekend to his championship. And like, again, I think before Monza, like, in terms of the lay of the land, you know, over the course of the year, Oscar's, that gap has been pretty representative. I think that these kind of mistakes from Oscar were always going to come about. And we've talked about, you know, a championship fight, when will it go to? And I've, partly out of wanting it to go to Abu Dhabi, of course. But I think Lando's too good to let Oscar get one over on him every time. And Oscar is only in his third year. He's going to make these kinds of mistakes. A mistake in Silverstone on the safety car restart. A mistake here off the start. And look, drivers jump start. It happens all the time, right? And then pushing too hard to make up for his poor start. You know, he's undone his Grand Prix and he's come away with nothing. How he bounces back from this, which has been his worst weekend this year, of course, by a country mile, will define, I think, whether he can win this title or not. Can he? Because it does feel like there's been as of late, Lando feels like he's got a little bit more pace than Oscar. And is this, you know, Lando feeling the pressure's off and then preferring to be in this chase position than being chased and can drive with a bit more freedom? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, worst weekend of his career. Yeah, I mean, relative, obviously, he's championship leader, right? So this is huge to get 0 points. And he's not been fully punished because of luck. There's nothing, you know, other than that. Like, he's purely lucky that Lando wasn't able to capitalize more, you know? I just can't. I just want to get excited about this title fight, man. But it's just, I just need something. I need some, like, I need something, you know? I need, like, a fire lit under it. I need Lando, like, Canada felt like it was going to be it. And then Lando was just like, yeah, it was my fault. And Oscar was like, yeah, it's fine, mate. Like, just, we need Max to come in and, like, give these boys something to be scared of. We need one of these boys to go against the team and be like, sod your papaya rules, done with that. I'm going for it. You know what I mean? I just, it would be so exciting. And again, look, 21 gave us an incredible title fight. I'm not interested in talking about Abu Dhabi. It gave us, it was so good. It had everything. It had the beefing off track. It had the clash of personalities. It had the clash of styles. It had everything. And this is just, it's just boring. Just, please give us something. Like, because if Lando had converted big points, then that means the gap's closer. And then that means it's a little bit more. And it's still a 25-point gap, which is still huge. And look, the driver I'm interested in winning this title is the driver that you can look back and be like, who deserved it? That's because Lando, Oscar, Max, I like them all pretty equally. My favourite is Alex. Like, and other than that, like, they are all in a group of drivers that I like. But, like, come on. Bring back Michael Massey. Not sure about that sign. Not sure how that would go down. To be honest, not sure at all. Anyway, right. Racing Bulls. I went far too long. Babbled far too long about that. Can you tell I'm quite tired? Racing Bulls. Very quick car this weekend. The fact that Hadjar was able to recover the way he did and put 20 seconds on Portaletto showed that actually the Racing Bulls and Williams were in their own category this weekend, significantly quicker than the rest of the midfield cars. But yeah, like chuffle him, very good, great job in quali. You got to feel like Hadjar, if he'd have had a bit of a better quali, obviously still got into Q3, but he would have definitely had the race pace to make it work. But you got to give credit to Lawson for the way he held off so many cars for so long. That must have been a mentally exhausting Grand Prix to go through. So you can't, you snatch a break, you do one lockup. Like we saw Lewis have a couple of hairy moments under the brakes, which he's still not happy with these Brembos. Almost putting it in the wall a couple of times. And it's like Lawson just could not afford, with all that pressure of a Ferrari and a McLaren and a Red Bull behind him. Very good. Very good. Very, very good from Liam Lawson. Happy for him. And Hadjar in the points again. Let him cook. Let him cook. Let him cook. Haas. Ocon basically did the entire Grand Prix on a set of hard tyres because he boxed early, didn't he? He was hard, medium, and then just put hard straight back on early doors after Piastri's crash. And tried something worth a gamble. They were talking about rain an hour into the race. It never really came. So he's disqualified, so he started at the back. So worth a roll of the dice. And I think Behrman had a decent Grand Prix. It was fine. I don't think he could have done too much more. But again, it was very, DRS train behind Colapinto at the start. And it was fine. I've got nothing more to say about Haas, to be honest. I think now, like, they aren't going to beat Sauber. They aren't going to beat Racing Bulls. They aren't going to beat Aston Martin. They aren't going to beat Williams. Full resource for 26. They'll finish ahead of Alpine. Bit more prize money than Alpine. But, yeah, I think they just need to accept kind of where they are. And hopefully, with Toyota Gazoo Racing's help, they can be a bit better next year in 26. Ferrari. Oh my goodness. What a disappointment once again. We've said this a billion times. Charles crashed in quali. Not good. I think he had a car where he could have been on the front row. He had a car that he could have won the race, maybe a stretch, because I think Max just seemed to be on rails this weekend. Lewis obviously out in Q2. Execution, team/driver, just not good enough from Ferrari on Saturday. And that put them in a difficult position. They couldn't even get reversing the positions right at the end. They were like, oh, Lewis let Charles back through, because Charles would let Lewis through to try and have a go at the Norris, Sonoda, Lawson train ahead of them. Couldn't get it done. Tried to give the place back and couldn't give him. Oh dear. Yeah, he just. I don't know if. I don't know if Lewis was like, I don't really care. Like, I don't think Lewis really cares. I don't think Charles really cares that he didn't give back the position. Like, it's for P8. Like, who cares? They certainly didn't care. But yeah, just another example of Ferrari not. And this is where when you look at Max and Red Bull, his side of the garage, operationally, execution-wise, in qualifying, being out on track at the right time, giving Max the information he needs to extract that lap in those tricky conditions, and then in the race, just executing, just GP, just making sure you're all right, Max. That's how you do it. Ferrari don't seem to be capable of that. Still. Kind of crazy. But yeah, maybe it's just the Brembos. Maybe it's just the Brembos, eh? But yeah, not good enough from Ferrari this weekend. Around a track that you would expect. You would expect good things. Didn't get them. Alpine, my goodness, so slow. Zero pace. Terrible. Renault engine bad. I actually, I recently drove past the Renault engine facility in Viry-Châtillon, south of Paris. I have nothing more to say. That's the story. You drive down the road, going to Paris or out of Paris, and it's there. By the main road out south of Paris. You see it there? I saw the sign for Viry and I was like, I know Viry. Why do I know Viry? And he kept driving and be like, oh, there it is. Still Alpine F1 team branded. But obviously they're not going to build the engines anymore after this year. But yeah, I saw it with my own eyes. It does exist. I can confirm. But it won't for much longer. Well, I think they're just going to repurpose the building, aren't they? Oh, look who's behind me. Look. Who's decided? Don't jump down from there, you idiot. Right, let's just go full screen while he's being... Look, there he is. Look, out of focus, Minton. How's he going, bruv? How's he going, mate? You like them little scratches? Bro, you can't jump down from there. It's way too high for you to jump down from there. I wouldn't stop him because he would just do it. Right, jump on my lap. Come on. Minton, on my lap. No. Come on. Don't be an idiot. Look, jump on my lap. There's a perfectly good lap right here. There we go. Right, come on. Look, I'm an hour and 20 minutes through the live stream, Minton. Don't start acting up now. Right, he's fed up. Oh, he's been kipping. He's had plenty of space to kip. Right, Bosh. Right, where you going? Right, is it because you want to go and kip with mum? Well, look, I've almost finished the stream, mate. So just stick here with me while we go through the final team, which is Sauber. Oh, I mean, I think Gabby kind of fully optimised his weekend as much as he could have realistically been expected to. P13 in qualifying, P11 in the race, miles off Hadjar, but obviously that was a car performance thing. Hulkenberg had a bit of a tangle with Ocon, didn't he, on lap 1 as well. But yeah, I think the moral of the story is that Bortoleto is absolutely rapid. Outqualified Hulkenberg once again. So, yeah. Pretty good, but no points, which is a problem for them in the Constructors' Championship fight, where Racing Bulls are scoring so many, and so Williams. But there you go. Bortoleto is rapid, DH, of course he is. Bortoleto. Sorry, I've got to say it properly. Bortoleto. Right, okay. I think that is kind of a wrap. Anything else I've not covered, chat? Anything I should have talked about that I didn't talk about? Hulk has his Lego trophy. That's true, Kira. So now he can chill. That is very true. Maybe it's just, yeah, I've got the Lego trophy. I've peaked. I can just sign off. Lovely jubbly. Thank you, Ewan, actually, for the super chat. Appreciate it, Ewan. Your channels helps me get into the sport. Watched my first race today. Brilliant sport. Welcome, Ewan. You picked a decent, not the best weekend. You picked a great Saturday. I hope you enjoyed qualifying because that was chaos. But yeah, we got some very exciting. Brazil, Ewan. Brazil's going to be a banger. Always a banger. Sometimes a wet banger. Really good. That's one I'm most looking forward to. Vegas as well. Vegas is a vibe, actually. It's a pretty good Grand Prix. You get a lot of overtakes and very cold as well, which kind of plays havoc with the teams that are quick and the teams that are not so quick. And the Minton that is being a little pest, aren't you? Right, you're going to go on my shoulder. There you go. Go on shoulder. There you go. You like being on the shoulder. So you enjoy that. You will enjoy that one, don't you worry. Come on, you irons, Lysander. I mean, Lysander, don't talk to me about West Ham. I just can't. I can't anymore. Yeah. Singapore next week, exactly, JMN. Singapore, well, not next week, a week after next. So we've got a week off, and then we're at Singapore to race under the lights. So that should be fun. Thank you all for tuning in, wherever you are in the world. Appreciate you watching TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG. Please leave a comment, interact, however you can. It really does help. I am an independent creator. I do everything myself because I'm a control freak. I do all my own editing, uploading, titling, blah, blah, blah. It's all me. It's all me. And sometimes a little bit of ChatGPT to help me with titles, even though it's pretty bad. It's more just to give me inspiration, to give me words, especially like thesaurus. That's kind of how I use it. But it's just me and Minton. And honestly, he's not much help. He just kind of sleeps. And I sometimes when I get stressed, I could just sit with him and he calms me down. Because look at him. Look at how majestic and beautiful and wonderful he is. What a wonderful little sausage. I'm going to put you on the floor. Thank you, Daniel Flash. McFrin, Avkid, Yard Animal, Lysander, of course. Burkosaurus, great name, Carlos, Patrick, Lou, JMN, Thomas, Kira, Daniel, Nick, DH, Adam, McFillan, Busker, and the rest of you. That's a wrap. I'm going to get this uploaded to Apple Podcast, Spotify, and probably make a short. I should definitely do a short. And then video for this week. I think... Oh, you can let me know in the comments. What should I do for my video for this week? There's obviously some very interesting... I guess there's maybe an interesting chat to have about Oscar and what this means for him in his title fight. Is this something that should Oscar fans be worried? Oh, like scary face and thumbnail. I don't know. Something about Carlos. Obviously, finally getting a result that I feel is more fair and representative of the pace that he has and has shown. Is this actually a title fight, or are we just trying to kind of like last year where a lot of people were trying to say that Lando was in the title fight when really, was he really? Don't know. But yeah, any suggestions, let me know. I haven't decided what I'm going to do a video on, but I will decide tomorrow morning, basically. So please let me know. Appreciate you all helping me do my job. We are a community here. It's just I'm the only one who gets paid. Sorry. Oh, clickbait title incoming. Well, the good thing now, because YouTube works now on watch time. So if you clickbait being misrepresent the content you are claiming to make with the title/thumbnail, people see it's clickbait and then click off the video. And nothing hurts a video more than giving it a tiny amount of watch time and then clicking it off. So if you want to support whoever your favourite creators are, just make sure you watch their stuff all the way through. Give them loads of watch time, and that should help them. FYI. But yeah, appreciate you all taking the time. Again, I'm going to wrap this here. My name's Tomo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.